What is up, everyone? Good evening. Sorry about the little bit of the delay there. What's up, Hummel? How's it going, man? What's up, Justin? How's it going, guys? Hope everyone is doing well this evening. What's up, MJ? What's up, Robert? Hopefully some of you guys didn't have to work today and had a long weekend. I know it was a long weekend for the markets, so it was nice kind of getting to rest and recharge a little bit, taking the minds off the screens. I know that was much appreciated. So, how's it going, guys? What's up, Vinny, Edson, Ferris? What's up, guys? How's it going, everyone? All right. So similar to how we kind of do these in the past, if you guys are new here, this is our Sunday scan. Typically, what we like to do here is kind of go over some things in the market ahead, in the week ahead that I'm kind of looking at, some things that I'll have my eyes on going into the week. One thing that I probably will do is also recap some of the things that we talked about last week and how those played out. And then at the end, what I like to do is give you guys an opportunity to bring some charts to my attention or to everyone's attention that's on the stream to take a look at as the potential to have some actionable setups on, within the market that you see for all of us to kind of take a look at. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So as you guys can see here on my chart, I do have Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin is trading around 27,000, and you guys can see here on the chart. Let's make this a little bit more apparent. Let me actually take off this. We'll add some trend lines back on here. But as you guys can see here on Bitcoin, it's pretty apparent, right? This orange line, what was prior resistance on Bitcoin, we finally broke out through that, pushed all the way up to 31,000. Now we're back down at that 25. We've pushed off of 25 and pushing our way back towards that 27,197 level that I have, or 27,200 level. So what we're seeing is that there's a little bit of momentum in Bitcoin here. And we're going to talk about that as it pertains to some other names that we've traded before, like Mara, RIOT, Coin, things like that. But I wanted to start with Bitcoin. I wanted to start here to kind of show you guys the theme for the week for me, I think, is going to be crypto names along with, potentially China names. We did see a sell-off on Baba and some China names Friday. But I think for the weeklies this week, I think Bitcoin names could provide us a pretty good vehicle to the upside to trade with, simply for this chart right here. Now, one thing that, we talked about before on Bitcoin, basically from, March 18th all the way until April 9th, and really April 10th was the day we broke out, but we consolidated on Bitcoin, right? We had what we basically call a flag, where we got a flag pull, we consolidate, we break out, and we go hit that 31,000 mark, or 30,549 is the exact level that I have here. So that was a consolidation pattern, right? And you guys hear me say it all the time. If you guys are new, one of the things that I like to talk about is, price consolidation leads to range expansion. We've kind of coined the term smoothies in the room, thanks to Jira Trades. And we're always looking for the smoothest name in the market. The one thing that I said last week was, if there is no trend, I don't want to attend. And what I mean by that is that if there's no strength in a name, if it's not trending up or down, it's not accretive for me as an options trader to trade it, because theta is working against me. And for those of you that are new, theta is just the time decay on contracts. So if we know that our contracts expire at a certain point in time, and 80 to 90% of options contracts expire worthless, it's not going to be accretive for me to hold a contract when a name is moving sideways like this for, a period of time intraday as a day trader. I want to be holding contracts when we're moving in linear movements, whether that's up or down, right? So if we're moving up, I'd like to be in calls, and if we're moving down, I should be in puts for that week, or whatever the time frame is that I'm looking at. When you run into consolidation, you can buy yourself time, and that's a topic for another day. But the main point here is that I wanted to point out was that, this is the Bitcoin daily chart. Now we can look at the weekly chart here too, and we can see, right, that this orange level even on the weekly, we broke up through this level on the weekly, pushed all the way up here to 40K, came back down and kind of held this this level here, which I'll color this one orange as well because I think this is a pretty key level, right? You guys can see break through the first orange level, hit the next one, pop even higher, come back and retest that second orange level before we make new highs, come all the way back down, hold that orange level again, right? So prior resistance, now support, lost support, came back up, now it's resistance, right? Support here at 15, come back up, probably going to be resistance. But when we break out over this could be a pretty nice move on Bitcoin back up here. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but what I wanted to talk to you guys about on the daily time frame was this pattern here. So what we're seeing, and I don't know if you guys see this with me, but what we're seeing, I mean, we played this before on Bitcoin, right? We played it where there was we talked about this pattern before, where we had kind of a wedge format coming on Bitcoin, right? On the daily time frame. And what happens when we have price consolidation? It often leads to range expansion, right? So we dropped out of the consolidation and we got some expansion, all the way from 28.5 downside on this candle down here, we came all the way down to 25.8. Right? So about $3,000 worth of downside on Bitcoin, which was a pretty solid move. Now what I'm looking at on Bitcoin specifically is this, right? This is what I'm looking at. And it's not the cleanest line, I guess, but this is what I'm looking at. And let's color this orange as well, just for illustrative purposes. This is a breakout that I'm watching on Bitcoin, right? Now, we don't have necessarily, it's not like we have a wedge pattern, but what we do have is a trend. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches now. We also have a key level on Bitcoin lining up with this downtrend. And how is this accretive for us as options traders if we're trading options when a name like Bitcoin's running? Those of you that have been in the room, you guys know how this works. That's where we'll start to look at names like Mara, right? So we take a look at a name like Mara. Mara is an interesting name, especially on the daily time frame, because we have been in some price consolidation, right? And I don't know if this line is necessarily relevant too much anymore. Kind of, right? Kind of. We still have an uptrend on the daily. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 taps on this uptrend. This is what we would call consolidation, right? Basically, we've gotten daily candle closes from 869. I'm going to eliminate that one as an outlier. 869 to 1033. All right, so about $2 worth of range here on Mara. But keep in mind that Mara does have a 30% short float. So look at the consolidation that we're starting to see. When I take off these levels, this is where you can really see it, right? Even if we look on the weekly here, we'll be able to see it. Show you the weekly time frame here on Mara. I mean, look at how tight this weekly looks on Mara right here, right? I don't want to put my levels back on because it's going to make it, right? It'll look kind of nasty for you guys. But what we can do is take this off maybe and take this guy off. But we have this uptrend, but on the weekly, right? Like we have this too. We've got this kind of look going on, which is interesting, right? So we've got something like this happening on Mara's weekly. Now, you guys know what happens on weekly time frames. The larger the time frame, the bigger the move. I really do think that we're going to see a move back into the $13 to $15 area, potentially 20 as a stretch target, 1936 up here on Mara. I think this is going to be a name that, like, if you look at this weekly, the volume that kind of has stayed here, that's a pretty bullish weekly candle. If you look at this weekly, right? I just moved a level and another level. I'll figure out where those levels go. I think it was 959, but I'll figure that out. But if you look at the candle, that's a pretty bullish candle, right? Let me just delete this because it's annoying me. Outside of that weekly candle that we had on April 14th, this is a pretty full, like, bullish engulfing candle for what we've had, right? We had a 6% week on Mara, but we've had weeks in the past where Mara has jumped 50%. April 14th, right? The week of April 14th, Mara, you can look up here. You guys can see it right up here. Right underneath where it says 1 week, you'll see what the weekly is. We moved 50%. The week after, we moved down 25%. The week after that, we were up 12%, right? So Mara, being that it's a crypto name, being that it's a growth name, and that it has a 30% short float or 33% short float, this name can get wild. And this name has room up to 13. It's got room all the way up to 14. It's got room to 15, and it's got room to 1935 on the weekly. You guys can see, like, this is a weekly consolidation pattern here. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see us back. Oh, that's the line that I moved, 1936. I wouldn't see us surprised back here at 1936 on Mara at some point, right? Maybe we stop here in and around that 18, but somewhere between 18 and 19. I'll have to take a look at the volume shelf and see what that looks like, but this name looks like it's primed to move. So Mara is going to be a top watch for me going into the week. Now let's take a look at RIOT, because RIOT is another one that I think we could see a pretty decent move on. First off, let's look. Let's look at the daily. All right, let's take a step back. Look at daily time frame. Trying to see what consolidation patterns we really have going on here. Let me just clear this and just look. Okay, so if anything, what I would argue here on RIOT is that we're starting to see some consolidation as well. This is a name that, again, we're starting to get. Let's take this guy off, extended hours off. This is the 4-hour chart now, what we're looking at, just so you guys know, 4-hour. I think the daily looks a little bit better. But this is a name that, again, if we kind of count, we've pretty much been stuck in between $10 and $12.74. So another one, really with like, let's put that there. Another one with kind of like $2 worth of range. Now we've got a lot of range to break out on the upside. I think these crypto names will gap up in the morning. I think with where Bitcoin's at on the daily time frame for the past few days, like I think we're going to see a pretty nice move here. But for me, the trigger is going to be on RIOT. Really, I think this breakout over 1270 is going to send RIOT. I think that's going to be the breakout, and then we're going to see. And if you want to be, you want to be patient, you could even wait here. Basically, what I'm looking at here, this $12.92 or $13 area, could be a little bit more of a safer entry for you. We've got, basically we can probably move this up a little bit. And what I'm doing here is playing the top of this candle here. But if you see here, right here on this this daily candle, April 17th, here's the top. Rejection, 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 rejected in this area. So we would call this maybe like a supply zone area that we want to see flip into demand. And once that flips to demand, I think this 14.43 target's next. At least a minimum of $14 would be next on RIOT. So I think a breakout over 13, I'd be looking at the 14.5 for the week, because if this name starts to go, again, just like Mara, I mean, this name's got some room. And if we talk about, trend structure, what are we starting to see on RIOT here? Kind of what we see on that 5-minute chart, right? Well, we come down, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. Now we're starting to put in higher lows, right? Higher low, higher low, higher low. So we're starting to put in a little bit of a stair-stepping pattern here, right? And I won't draw this out, but down, right? Stair step, right? So we're kind of seeing a little bit of reversal. We're seeing some big volume on the weekly time frame. We're seeing some money starting to pour back into this name. So this week, for me specifically, crypto miners are going to be on watch. Now let's look at everyone's favorite coin. The one thing that I will say about coin is consolidated a lot on the weekly time frame. This name looks like it is primed for a massive, massive move. I don't know where we move to. I don't know when we make that move, but this name is, I mean, this name is setting up for an explosive type of move. Let's trying to think here how I want to show you guys this. This is the weekly. Sorry. Here we go. So let me turn these levels back on. I'm going to do this. right? I think this name is probably a name that we see trading back at $100 a share relatively soon. And that's my hot take on it on the weekly time frame. This is a name. Let me color this. Let's just color it orange. That's the color of the night, I guess, is orange, right? Flip this guy back to white. And let's just make that normal size again. Okay. So the reason I say that, guys, is we saw this name. We've seen massive call sweepers come into this name, $80 calls. Now, what we've seen typically with those big call sweepers on coin is that typically these guys will play out of the money strikes, but they play strikes out of the money that oftentimes land deep in the money. So the reason I'm thinking we see 100 on this is because once we break out over 85, I don't think we really have anything stopping us till about the mid 90s, and then after that, I mean, I think we gap up into that 103 territory. So I think coin is set, especially if Bitcoin's going to do it. Coin is a name that, we've got probably, if again, hot take for me, but I think we've got like 100% upside right here on coin over the next 2 months. I think coin trades back in that $100 range. I'm not good at predictions, but based on what the chart's looking like, based on what I'm seeing, I'm not saying coin is the best long-term investment. I'm not saying put money in coin. I'm saying as options traders, what I think we can do is we can expect that there's going to be some upside movement from here on coin, and I think we can take advantage of that volatility because coin, just like some of those other crypto names, is a name that, as you can see here, 40% in a week upside, 14% in a week in an upside, 21, 22%, 11%, 10%. 50% upside in 1 week here, right? And this week alone, we went from 34.72 on the week of January 13th all the way to a high of 50.63, right? We've seen this before. We've seen coin up 50% in this week. Like, I think coin is due potentially for another 50% week. If we get a 50% week from where these levels are that we're at now on coin, coin's back into the $75 area, which would make those $80 call buyers, the whales that loaded millions of dollars on $80 calls for, I think it was like 45 days out. It's going to make them look very, very smart. So just pay attention to this as we go throughout the week. We'll continue to keep an eye on coin. It's a name that trades its levels really well when it is trading, when it's trading, fluidly. So just a name that I like, a name that I'll be watching. As you guys can see, when we break out of this trend that we've been in, right? When we broke out of this, it lined up with 75. We bounced all and hit 85, right? We did it before. We hit 87. So, I think when we break out of this trend, we're going to see a pretty nice move back up into the 70 range. And then if we can get up over, 75, 77, I think we trade back up into 85. I don't remember Keo, but I'll put it in the, I'll find it and I'll put it in the Wall Street tonight so everybody can take a look at that. But it was $80 call buyers, and I'm pretty sure it was over $1 million worth 45 days out. I think it's July or beginning of August expiration. But I'll find those for you guys. So, with that being said, miners, coin, Bitcoin, Mara, all of these things, all the Bitcoin miners, those are going to be my top watch going into the week. The other name that I really like going into this week, if China continues, which China FXI is that's the ticker symbol that you'd want to watch. And you guys can see what we've gotten with FXI, just three straight green candles on the weekly time frame popping back up here. If we break out over 29, I'd look for that move back into that 30 to 31 area. FXI doesn't move too much. Just wanted to show that as a visual of like where money's been going. You can see we got a rising wedge on it and we kind of dropped down out of it. Now we're just kind of starting to consolidate here and really make our way back up here. But what I'm looking at and what I think could be a potential good play coming up is NEO, right? I've got my price target set down here. Let's take this guy off. Intraday levels. NEO is a name that has confirmed broken out on the weekly time frame, right? Weekly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rejections. We finally broke out this week, right? So NEO is one. So NEO, yes. MSTR you can play as well. I haven't really traded that one too well, but MSTR is an option that you guys can trade with crypto volatility, 100%. NEO is a China name that I think looks very, very healthy on the weekly time frame with all those rejections. Upside price targets for me. We did hit 1021. But my first target is going to be 1054, 1253, 14, and then over 14. You know, I think we could really push up into the 20s on NEO. I don't know if it happens. Again, I'm not in the prediction mode, but if it does happen from this level, we've probably got, you know, about, you know, 200% upside from here on NEO if we continue to push through these levels. That's what I'd be looking at is, you know, 150 to 200% upside from here. Might make sense to take a look at August or September calls on NEO that could land deep in the money relatively quickly. Now, BABA is another name that we played last week. BABA is a name on the weekly time frame that looks very, very similar. Sorry for all the lines on here. These are our key levels that we trade intraday. But again, rejection, 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 breakout on BABA's weekly. Now, BABA's a name that has a lot of room to run. Last time we held this level, we did trade all the way back to 122 on BABA, right? We broke up over this level again, this 79.49. When we held this level, we broke through it, we held it, pushed up, held it. Where did we trade back to? That 122.50 area, right? Same area. Here, you can see it. You can see it here, right here, right here, right here, right here, and right here is where I'd be targeting this weekly to head back to on BABA. I don't know if it happens, but as traders, we can only look for patterns and probabilities. The probability of us doing the exact same thing from this key level that we've done in the past is probably pretty high in my mind. That's what I'm thinking about. If we hold, right, every time we have held this $80 level or $79.49, we've traded back to $122.50. Once, right, hold, high, hold, high, hold, then we lost it, right? So that doesn't count. We held it and then we broke down through it. As long as we hold and continue upward momentum, right? Pushed up, down, pushed all the way over, pulled back, 121.5 basically, or 122.5. Came down, held, pushed up. Now we did reject here. We did catch a rejection at 102, fell back down, and we've held value here. So 102 will be a spot. Over 102, that 122.50 would be my spot on BABA. So I will be watching China names and I will be watching crypto names going into the week. Those are going to be two of my top sector focuses going into the week. Now, let's shift our focus quickly and talk about some of the software data tech names here, like Snow, because Snow is one. Actually, I'm sorry. My favorite one for the week is Twilio. Okay, Twilio is a beaten down name. This name was trading at a all-time high of $457.30. We currently closed at $67.65 on Friday. Now, if we look at the weekly time frame, what are we getting on the weekly? That is a pretty obvious bull flag on the weekly, right? Pretty obvious bull flag. Right, and I don't know how much more obvious that gets, but we also have two inside weeks now, right? So an inside week means the candle is trading within the prior week's candle. So if we look here at this weekly time frame, for those of you guys that are new, here's the weekly on June 2nd, here's the weekly on June 9th. Well, you see how the high on June 9th is within the week of June 2nd's candle. So that's what we call an inside candle. It's inside the range. We got the same thing that happened on last week's candle. It's inside the June 9th week's candle. So what does that mean as traders? How does that help us? Well, that just shows us that price is consolidating, right? And if we go to the daily time frame, we'll see that. We can see that playing out very, very vividly, right? We can see that there is price consolidation. We had this massive move up, an 11% day on Twilio back on May 31st. And we can see, right? Oops, sorry, let me delete that. Wrong thing. Here's the bottom of that May 31st candle, and here's the top of it, right? So again, this might be rudimentary for you guys that are a little bit more experienced, but for those of you that are new in here, I just wanted to show you guys this is what inside consolidation looks like. So on the daily time frame, you see, it not necessarily that we have inside bars on the daily time frame, because we don't. But what we do have is on the weekly time frame, right? Inside bars on the weekly. Sorry, and that really should be down there. So what that means is that we are consolidating on that time frame. And what that means is that we are looking for a breakout, right? This area for me that I'm looking to break is really going to be that 69.70 spot, right? Really the high of this day, which is 69.81, really. Right? You could be safe and say 70, a 70 breakout area. But you guys can see this name is primed to do something explosive, right? This is almost textbook to what we saw on Apple's setup. We saw a very similar pattern here in Apple. This is going to be one of my top breakout watches. I think this is a name when we catch this move. This probably goes, this is a 2 to 3x play for us if we catch this move. This is a daily breakout. You guys saw what happened with Unity on Friday of last week. It was like a 360% play. This name probably does something very similar, depending on when we catch it, how it moves, that type of thing. But the type of breakout and the violent move on the breakout, this is going to be huge, right? We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, we've been underneath this $70 range for a while now, right? But we've had one since we've tested it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days. We've kind of been range bound, and we're just getting tighter and tighter on the daily, right? What I mean by that is 58.86, 69.81, right? 63.05, 69.13, right? And we just keep getting tighter. 65.72, 69.02. So we're just, if you imagine, your pointer finger and your thumb, we're just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller all the way up to the top, the apex of this kind of consolidation symmetrical triangle pattern. Now, if we look at a similar name that has done this in the past, we can kind of see what might happen with this name, right? Let's take a look at Apple. And I think this happened... I think we played the same pattern on Apple. Can't remember when it was. I'm pretty sure it was this name that did it, or maybe it was Meta. There was one of the names that we play where this happened. Oh, here we go. Right, daily time frame. I knew we had an uptrend on one of these. Right, and again, sorry for the lines. I know it's maybe making you guys motion sick a little bit, but you guys see here this is what happens when we have patterns like this, right? So we've got horizontal resistance, right? Rejections all across the board, and we can argue where this line should be at. I have that 274.10 level there for a reason, but rejections across the board, right? And we have a trend on the way up. Well, what happens when we break that? Well, Meta was up, almost $10 on this day, right? In fact, we had an intraday move all the way from a low of 271 to a high of 283, 284 basically. So it was like a $13 intraday move on this stock, which was like a 4.5% day for Meta, which is huge for a name like Meta, right? So when we go back to Twilio and we take a look at Twilio's setup, we can see it's a very similar setup. Maybe not as much consolidation. In fact, we're actually getting more right now, which makes me even more excited to play this because the more consolidation we get, the bigger the move is going to be on the backside of that consolidation. So Twilio is a name that I'll be watching going into the week. I think we could see a really, really solid move here. Now, let me show you guys one more chart here. Was it snow that I wanted to talk about? I don't think so. There was one more. Let me look at my watch list over here. What name was it? Oh, that's what it was. UPST, because we have the swing open on UPST. UPST. This is a name that we are swinging in the room. For those of you guys that are new, and when I say we, it's a swing that I took. If anyone tailed me with it, they tailed me. But UPST is a name that I can't ignore the weekly volume and the weekly buying pressure that we've gotten on UPST, which is why I took the swing, right? This is not something that I can ignore. When you look at a weekly time frame and a weekly breakout, this is a swinger's dream, right? 1 rejection, 2 rejection, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We finally break out. And when we break out, we go from $16, right, all the way to $37.24. Right? you know, if we look at the monthly, let's take a look at the monthly. Right, UPST was up 95% in the month of May. So far, it's up 36% in the month of June. So we're starting to move on the monthly time frame, right? And you guys can see that here. We're starting to curl. We've started to base, and we're starting to make our way back up, okay? So on UPST, now, do I think that we're due for some consolidation? Absolutely. I don't know that we're just going to continue to just go straight up. I think we might see some consolidation here. It probably would be healthy for us, and in fact, we are starting to see a little bit of consolidation since we broke up over 35.49. We're starting to see that a little bit, right? I mean, we did make a higher high here and a new high on the chart for the year. But what we're starting to see is a little bit of consolidation because we're starting to see, you know, we had an inside day on Thursday. We did get, you know, an outside day here on Friday. But I think we see a little bit of consolidation. But over this $40 level, you know, I don't really have much on UPST until this next spot up here at 53.29, which is why I think these $50 calls. And again, we saw some whales from a flow perspective tagging some contracts out of the money a few months out. I think UPST is going to be one that moves really well, especially with the fact that the Fed paused the rate hikes and the fact that if Bitcoin continues to move, I think this is going to be beneficial for UPST. Even though UPST is not a crypto miner, I think just the growth names in general are going to see a pretty nice surge with Bitcoin moving. So that's kind of what I'm going to be watching this week, guys. I want to, you know, spend some time to get into some of the charts that you guys want to look at. I'm excited to look at some of these because some of them I've already looked at and I really, really like them. So as always, guys, questions, comments, anything like that, drop them in the room. Q, I'm going to put in there the coin flow so you guys take a look at that. But hopefully I gave you guys a good idea of kind of like what I'm going to be watching this week coming up in the week ahead, the sectors that I'll be watching and what I think is going to catch on with the momentum. And again, as options traders, we just want to find the momentum. I don't need to be first to the party. I don't need to be last to the party. I just don't want to trade sideways chop. I just want to trade where there's a trend. Like if there's trend up or down, I'll trade it. I don't care. I'm not a perma bear. I'm not a perma bull. But I do think SPY sees all-time highs before the end of summer. That's another hot take for me. And it's recorded, so we'll come back and listen to it if this happens. All right, so let's jump into it. Roblox and EMPH, Sunil asked for earlier. So let's take a look at Roblox first. I really like Roblox actually here at this spot. So not to mess up my levels, let me show you guys an illustration, kind of like what I like about Roblox. What I'm looking at on Roblox and what I kind of like. Right, let's put some patterns in here. And this will hopefully just gives you guys an idea of kind of how I look at names and how I look at technical analysis and you know, price action, things like that, right? Okay, so first things first, going all the way back to the beginning of the year 2023, you know, we see a pretty clear defined trend, right? On this trend line, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, 4, 5, right? Like we held this and then we gapped down and we started to pull a little bit. But we caught support at an area of prior support, right? Where we kind of had this prior support at, right back here in February, we caught support at again here. Okay, so those are two things that I notice. Next thing that I notice, we've got some horizontal resistance, right? This isn't the first time that we came up to 42.80 and got smacked off of it. We did it back in May. We've done it early on in June twice. And then on Friday, we rejected that same spot. Like how that's extended that far. So I'm just side note here, guys, when this starts to extend super far out, I don't really like to to do that, what I'll do instead is I'll just kind of start my trend down here where we kind of have a local area, and then, you know, match it somewhere up in there. So what's happening here on Roblox is that we are getting tight. Okay, so this is I actually really like this pattern, Sunil. Thanks for bringing this to my attention. This is a great pattern, one that I really do like, and one that I think if we break this area, Roblox could go up and get a new high of the year over that 47.65 and potentially back up into the $50 area, which would be great for growth names, great for Roblox. So this name's going to be on watch. I'm actually going to check some flow on it tonight too and see what we get with it. But Roblox, great chart for me personally. EMPH, let's take a look at this. End-phase energy. This is a name that likes to move as well. You know, you can actually see here back in December, this is one that I actually wanted to short off this 324.50 spot. Because if you look at the weekly time frame, you know, we had basically came up there and a couple times in a row we had shorted this area. When we finally broke out over it and then we came back down, we got this big weekly kind of, you know, big wick over that weekly level, and then we just kind of fell all the way down. But again, this is a name that is starting to curl, and on the weekly, we're getting some consolidation patterns. So let's go into the daily time frame and take a look. Okay, let's get rid of this. Okay, again, we're kind of seeing a similar pattern set here that we saw. You know, let's put a line here, right? So we've got support, resistance, right? So I think a breakout over 187, 188 area could be beneficial for a move back up into the, you know, 200, 210, 220 area on EMPH. Now we are seeing, again, kind of like we saw with some of those other names, a little bit of trend as well, right? So on the daily time frame, we could even say that we're hugging a trend line here, right? 1, 2, 3 taps, rejection, come back down. Where did we land? Right on the trend line, right? 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 tap, 4 tap. We are consolidating, right? We went from being from 160 all the way up to 187, now to 172, back up in here to the 184. So we're consolidating on EMPH. This looks like this could be a nice mover over 187.62. So much so that I'm going to put a price alert here, and I'm going to make it at 187.35. I like that chart a lot. Actually, 187.50. I'll make it at 187, above 187.50. I like that chart a lot, Sunil. So I appreciate you showing me that. XPEV pockets. Let's take a look at XPEV. Yeah, you know, with China going, XPEV could be another good one to watch. Let's look at the weekly first. Yeah, just like Neo, just like all those other China names, we're starting to see it, right? We're seeing that weekly breakout. Rejection, big weekly breakout. This one's got, I mean, honestly, XPEV got, you know, it's got room to 13, kind of where we started this trend at. If we put these lines here, right, let's just say we got room to 13, and then over 13, like, to be entirely honest, like, I think we've got room back into 17. Like, I think it's somewhere up in here. Like, we've got room if we really want to move on XPEV. Right? This is a wedge formation, right? Because we continue to make higher lows, but we continue to make lower highs, right? Lower highs, higher lows, price consolidation, wide at first, right? Wide at first, and then we consolidate into tighter times, and then we break out. So first stop on XPEV would be around that $13 area. If we get over 13, I'd be looking for a move up into that 17.5 area. kind of back into that kind of like IPO area, right? Like I think they IPO'd, it opened at $23 a share. If we can get over 17.56, I think we could get back to that IPO price, in my opinion. Rivian is ready. Yes, Rivian is ready to go as well, Sunil. I think everyone is buying calls on Rivian. We've seen so much call flow on Rivian. But my God, look at this chart though. Imagine being one of the original owners of Rivian on the private sector side and being able to sell your shares at IPO at $180 a share, just to see it fall all the way down to $11 a share. It looks good though, right? Like we are consolidating. Here's the weekly. Sorry. Weekly time frame. We're looking solid on it, right? Support, support, breakthrough, support. What happens, right? Support now flips to resistance. Resistance, 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 resistance. Looking for a break back out over this level to go back and go exactly back to where we were at before, right? Hold a support, go back to 1982 or $20 psych level, fall from $20 psych level back down to that 1554, fall from there, make a new low, come back up. If we break out over 1554, where do I logically expect the next move for us to go to? Whether that takes 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, I expect us to get back into the 20s. So this is a play that if you wanted to, anyone that's trading with like a Roth IRA or something like that, when we break out over here, like don't be afraid to take like January of 2024, like $20 calls on Rivian. You're going to pay a little bit more because you're buying the time, but that's the next logical level up that we're going to go to. And if it takes us 3 weeks to get there, it doesn't matter because you're in January calls. You're not in a weekly contract. That's just an idea. When you see these range breaks like this, consider taking leaps on it. You don't have to just trade a weekly contract. You could trade a January contract and see a 50% move if we get that in 1 week, or if we get it in 3 weeks, your contract goes 30%. You know what I mean? Like that's what could happen. Things like that happen. So just consider that. But yes, Sunil, I agree with you that Rivian is ready. Rob wants to look at FDX, FedEx. Let's take a look at that. FedEx looks good. Right, so like my initial thought on this is like we're just kind of like we're in a pretty steep uptrend on FedEx, but luckily we have had consolidation on the weekly time frames. Right, we fell all the way down. I think when we fell, it wasn't this one. It was in November of it was like right in here. This is when I was on Spaces and we traded the news on it and went crazy. FedEx, that was a great. I remember that one. So basically what we're getting here, what I'm looking at on FedEx is, we made lows here, local lows, basically from the chart that we're looking at. We consolidated, we pushed up, we consolidated, we pushed up, we consolidated, we pushed up, we consolidated, pushed up, we consolidated, we pushed up, right? Like, and so now what I'd be looking at here on FedEx would likely probably be a move back into this area is kind of what I'd be looking for, that 243, 242. Okay, somewhere back in here, maybe even 244. Somewhere in here is what I'd be looking for on FedEx and move back into here. And maybe even this next week we push up and then we start to consolidate back, right? You see here, like we push up, pull back, push up, pull back, push up, pull back into trend. The ideal play here for me, the one thing that I'd be looking at and it would be interested to play is going to be this breakout over this 244 area, because I think this would be a pretty nice move over that spot. Now, if we go to the daily, let's see if there's any actionable daily setups for us to play. And right now, I don't see anything on the daily that really makes me excited to play FedEx from a technical analysis standpoint, from a pattern standpoint. On the daily time frame, I don't see too much. If we look at the 30-minute, not much on the 30-minute, on the hourly, not much from a pattern perspective that really makes me excited to play it. I don't see too much around FedEx, but just initial thoughts, Rob, on FedEx is that we are trending. we're trending on the weekly, we're trending on the daily, and this does look good for a move into that 244 pivot spot. And then from there, we either break and we go up. First target upside is going to be like 256. Then I'm going to be looking at 266, and then above 266, really looking for that 287, 290 spot up into the 300 range. I don't know if we get it, but if we do move and we get that type of move, then FedEx has got about 25-30% upside from here if we're going to go get new all-time highs on FedEx. Let's look. IGV. Yeah, so this is a tech software sector ETF. You guys can see it's the same thing we've been talking about, right? Like tech's led the way in 2023. If we look at the monthly, or we could look at the yearly so far. Right, 2023, we're up 35% after being down 35% last year. We basically we haven't came all the way back to a dollar perspective, from a net perspective, but we have came back from a percentage perspective. If you lost 35% of the market last year, now you're up 35%. So, not that you're net even here, but this is a tweezer bottom. We talk about this on the 5-minute. We talk about it on the hourly. We talk about it on the daily time frame. Tweezer bottoms on the 15-minute. This is a tweezer bottom on the yearly so far. What happens on tweezer bottoms? Well, we typically look for more upside. I'm not saying that this year we're going to blow off the top and, the markets are going to rally and SPY is going to be up 40% for the year. I'm not saying that, or more specifically IGF. But what I am saying is that, this is what we're seeing. We've been seeing this. Like QQQ's chart looks the exact same. This is exactly what we're seeing. So from a weekly time frame perspective, yeah, this looks good. It looks just like QQQ to the upside. This was that spot we had to break here. On the weekly time frame, and if we put this right in here, we got that candle close, right? Why is it right there? Well, we've got, let's see, we crashed down underneath this, we got a rejection, we pushed back over it, came back down, rejection, finally got a candle close over 345.34 on the weekly time frame last week. In fact, we closed at 347.29. So this guy looks good to move back into that 384.60 spot, which is why I said QQQ looks good for a move back up into around that 380 spot as well. Curious my thoughts on SOFI, German pound cake. Yeah. I think SOFI is going to move, kind of like the other growth names. Now we've seen this move a lot over the last few weeks. Kind of like growth. May has been a big month for growth names, like we talked about earlier on this evening. But that's an ugly candle. That's what we call a shooting star or a blow off top candle. What that means is that in the middle of a trend, it's kind of like a hammer candle at the bottom of a trend, but in the middle of a trend to the upside, if we see a big wick and then sellers step in and push that candle body back down, it means that the buyers weren't strong enough compared to the sellers at these levels. Kind of like a hammer candle, right? Imagine if we came down here, we pushed all the way down to 41 cents, for example, and buyers step back in and push that candle back up to $4. What would that tell you? That buyers really, really like SOFI at 41 cents. Sellers really like SOFI at $10. They didn't want it to get over $10. So where am I going to put my next level at now? You guessed it, right? Like right at $10. This is my next level on SOFI, and it's not a surprise because historically buyers actually like SOFI at 10, right? Look at this weekly time frame, the weekly candle here. They bought it right at 10, right? And then they held it at 10, and then they lost 10. Buyers lost it, and sellers stepped in and said, I'm going to sell from 10. Sell from 10 equals rejection, right? So rejection. So when we break out over 10, I think SOFI is a pretty good mover back up into that 1390 range. I think we've got about 40% of upside on SOFI if we can break out over this 1004 spot or $10 psych level. There's no need to try and front run it though, right? 40% on it, an individual equity is massive moves on weeklies for an options contract perspective. So don't try and front run this. We're basically stuck back in range now, right? And so once we get over this level, this is a huge level, right? Like this is a big spot. So let's make this orange. Orange is the color of the night, but over that $10 range on SOFI gets turning up. Like we could really turn up on SOFI, probably into that $13, $14 area. because we don't have a lot of resistance here until where we saw prior support, right? We opened, we pushed all the way up to 14, we came back down. I didn't even notice this, but you guys see how these levels are lining up. Then we broke out over 14, then we came back down, right? So resistance, here's a break of resistance. Then what happens when we break resistance? We come back and we use it as support. Resistance, now flip to support, 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 break, resistance, 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 right? And if we break up over 10.04 again, where are we going to catch the next resistance at? Probably $14, right? Because that's where we caught it when we first opened up. And that was where buyers like to hold this as support. So sellers naturally would step in at $14 because they know what buyers will do if they get it up over 14. Yeah, I agree with you. Love on the daily or weekly. For sure, bro. That one's ready. I think I've posted my levels on Love. Love had a really nice week last week. You guys can see here on the weekly, pretty bullish candle. Literally hit those levels. Here's the daily so you guys can see what the daily looks like. I do think Love is ready to consolidate some because we can't just keep going straight up like this. We could see some consolidation here under this 1350, but what we are starting to see is a flag pull, right? We're starting to see a pull here. If we consolidate, this is going to be a big bull flag, and we could see that move up into that $37 or $40 range on Love. So keep an eye on that. Now, I have seen a lot of people tag me on Twitter about the acquisition that I kind of touted, that if they acquire Hawaiian Airlines, Frontier, Spirit, JetBlue, like if they made any type of acquisition, everyone's like, yeah, let's look at the Love calls. Keep in mind that in the markets, guys, when a company acquires another company, it's not the company that acquires the company whose stock price goes up. So in this case, if I'm saying Southwest goes out and acquires another airline, Southwest stock is probably going to actually tank, right? The other company's stock is going to skyrocket because they're getting an equity deal, or it's a cash purchase or whatever it is, but those shareholders are getting their shares purchased from them at a premium from the purchasing company. Whereas a company like Southwest is going to have to use some of their cash to purchase shares of that company that they want to acquire. So when you're looking at mergers and acquisitions, it's really the company that's getting acquired that's going to see the upside moves. The company that's doing the acquiring is probably going to see a downside move because it's going to take a hit to their free cash flow. Long-term play, but UNP. 3-month inside candles in a row, starting to test its downtrend. Let's take a look. That could be a weekly breakout on UNP last week based on what we're seeing right here. Could be. Maybe it's not. No way to know, I guess, until we see what happens this week. But let's look at the monthly because I'm curious to see what you saw on the monthly too. Yeah, so we no longer have an inside bar on the monthly. I see what you're saying though, right? So like from March, the monthly candle in March, we had inside, then we finally broke it. I usually don't chart out on the monthly, but I'm just curious. I'm just playing with different patterns here to see what this looks like. Let's go to the daily now. Yeah, I'm not really seeing. TPAT. I think this is kind of the play on the weekly time frame, right? Like on UMP, rejection, 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 breakout. So let me put my upside targets in here. If this is a breakout, right, upside targets that I'd be looking at are right here. First one. Really, actually, could probably say this level. Let's say this one first. Here. There. There. All right, so that's what I'll be looking at on UMP if we break these levels. Oh, you're looking at the 3 month. Sorry. Yeah, I thought you were looking at the monthly. This does look good. Short-term bullish perspective, like for me on UMPH, is the fact that we broke out over the weekly time frame. First targets up are 213, 219, and then 230 essentially. Over 230, then I think we look at this 235, and then we potentially, see 250 and above. But this does look like the potential of a weekly breakout here. So for those of you that like UMP or TPAD, if this is one you like, I think this is the potential sign of a breakout here on UMP. We'll have to see what happens in the coming week. But, as long as we break out over the prior week's high last week at 206.90, I think we do make that move to 213 on UMP. So keep me posted if you play UMP and where it goes. But my targets on UMP are going to be 213, 219, and then 229. What do you see in Disney and snow? We talked about snow earlier, D-Sane, so you can go back and look at the recording on snow. Actually, we didn't talk about snow. I don't really see too much actionable on snow from like a daily perspective. On the weekly time frame, I think like as soon as we break out over 200, snow's going to go back into the 220 spot. This is this line right here. Make that thicker, orange, right? As soon as we break that, like 197, 77, 200 area, I think snow trades back into the 222, 223 area. Still bullish on Disney for me. I think Disney still has a chance to go. When we break this trend on the weekly time frame, we've seen it, right? We've seen shooting star rejection. We haven't seen another shooting star rejection yet. So when we break out over this level, and specifically 102, I think Disney is gonna make a pretty nice move. We don't really have a trend on the bottom setting up just yet. I'd say a little bit of a trend here. Like we're trying to consolidate on Disney. I'll just color this for illustrative purposes. We're trying to consolidate. A little bit more of a horizontal line than kind of a trend line, but I think I do think Disney. I'm short-term bullish on Disney based on what the call flow is kind of done. I think we could see a pretty nice move on Disney in the summer months. How do those of us that have been scalpers navigate the ups and downs of swing options? Anything with Tesla? So with swing options, I think the biggest thing is as swing traders. I think someone in the Discord asked me about this the other day. They were up on a play and they were like, "How do I trade this? Because I'm up 25% on a swing. Like if I scalp, I'm out with profits." For me, the way I look at things, and we can look at Meta because I took that weekly swing on Meta, the 274.10 break, right? That's what I traded. Here we go. I don't have the extended hours on here, right? But what I traded was the level break here, right? As soon as we broke 274.10, I alerted I was taking the weekly contracts of 287.5. Why did I take 287.5? Number one, they were a little bit cheaper, and I really did think that Meta, this was a huge spot, right? Because I had told you guys all along, I was like, if we go back and look at the 4 hour, like 274.10 is a huge spot. And again, sorry for all these lines. I know it's a little annoying, but here's the 4 hour. Remember how I said I was like 274, there's not a lot of room from 274 up to 287.5 and then 294. So I was like 287.5, that's what I'm taking. Like that's what I'm going to take. Let's see what we can do with it. So as a scalper, right? Those things I scalped those intraday, but then I let some swing, and I swung all the way to my next level. My next level up was 284. We got 284, came back down, and then we opened up the very next day. I think right here. Yeah, here we go. We opened up the next day and we ramped all the way up here. We hit a high of 285.53 on that opening drive candle before we came all the way back down. Why did I swing though? Well, I swung those the next day because we were over my key level at 274.10. I scaled a little bit here at 284. So the biggest thing for me was position sizing with swings. In swing trading, you have a little bit more size than what you have on when you're taking scalps, at least for my system, my setup. So I use my price targets as scales. So if we hit the first price target, I'll scale a little bit. If we hit the second price target, I'll scale a little bit more. And I just keep scaling, and then eventually my trade is free. It's a free trade that I'm just swinging house money on. It's almost like you think about playing blackjack. And you go there with $200. An hour later, you look down, you got $400. Well, you put $200 back in your pocket. Put 200 chips worth of chips back in your pocket. Now you're playing blackjack with house money, right? And that's kind of how you have to look at swing trading. You just keep moving those stops up, taking profits along the way. But that's why it's imperative to have targets to the upside and to the downside when you're swing trading or scalping in general, because even scalpers need to have targets to the upside. But hopefully that answers your question. Maybe we can do a class on that, swing trading and what it looks like, how to choose strikes, how to mentally stay prepared and stay engaged in those swing trades, because it can be a little, it's a little daunting to see fluctuations red and green on your portfolio every single day. Last one, WFC. Let's take a look at this one because I know we are at time. Wells Fargo. Interesting here. I've already got a little bit of a pattern set up on Wells Fargo apparently. But this name looks good. All right, let's take this guy off. Let me just put right. So fall down through that level, that $42 level, and then we rejected on that next day. We rejected on this day, rejected on this day, finally breakout over, and now we're starting to hold some value here. We're starting to get some consolidation right here at this level, right? Because we're trading, we're trading around this level. So I think this is a spot now on Wells Fargo. If we look here, right, see how we have a gap here on the daily? From here up to here, we've got this gap up, right? So that's what I'd be looking for, is a move from this level to this level, right? And then back up. And I'd be looking for us basically to trade back up probably into that mid 40 area, 44, 45. Wells Fargo doesn't move too much. I don't trade this too much, but just from a technical analysis, perspective, we're in a clear defined uptrend on Wells Fargo, right? Like, all the way down here from beginning of May, if we look at the monthly, right, we're up 6% on Wells Fargo, which is pretty decent. If we look at the yearly, what's the yearly? Right, so 2022, we were down 12%. Currently, we're up 3.6%. 2021, Wells Fargo was up 60%. Crazy year that was in the markets. But yeah, so Wells Fargo, that's kind of what I see on the daily and weekly time frame. There's the daily look there. That's kind of what I'd be looking at. CHK setting up on the weekly. Chesapeake. Chesapeake was my first trade I ever made. I'll never forget this name. It's trading at 82. Oh, okay. It's had splits since then. It's had to have. No way. Is it? Yeah. All right, it's split. I was gonna say, I remember when I bought this thing when it was going into bankruptcy court, and I was like, nope, I'm buying it because no one's gonna let Chesapeake Energy go bankrupt, and their balance sheet was insolvent. It just wasn't good. But yeah, I had like $1,000 worth of Chesapeake at like 10 cents or something like that. I think I sold it for like a $200 gain. I didn't know what I was doing back then. That was like, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to be rich because Chesapeake's going to go back and make a ton of money like they used to back when they were trading. You got to remember, like when they were trading at like $31 a share, and I'm buying at 10 cents a share. I thought I was going to be rich, but we see how that worked out. I thought Chesapeake was going to send me to the Holy Lands. So Chesapeake, what I see here, on the weekly time frame, let's take a look. Yeah. Chesapeake is setting up here on weekly time frame. right? And we might even have just had a weekly breakout on Chesapeake. Let's put a horizontal line here. It's a little bit easier to do that on Webull. No, I don't want to call that a breakout yet. This is the breakout, 83.66. Breakout on this level on Chesapeake, and I think we trade back up into that $90 range. That's PT1 for me on Chesapeake. PT2 is really going to be the $100 psych level. That's what I'd be looking at on Chesapeake. Great eye, Francisco. Yeah, I think 83.63 sends us to 90.42. 90.42 sends us to 100. Yeah, blast from the past. Appreciate that. I as soon as I saw the ticker CHK, I was like, that's Chesapeake Energy. And I was like, man, I really don't want to chart something that's like 10 cents. But no, great. Yeah, blast from the past there. Sean, what's up, brother? UAL or American Airlines? Yeah, we have seen some put flow starting to come in on Jets ETF. I think the move on UAL was really that breakout over that 47.75 because you can see what happened when we broke out over that level. We moved pretty quickly to 53.50. That next upside pivot I had was 54.53, so we didn't hit it, but we did hit 54.06, so 46 pennies off, 47 pennies off to the level that we wanted. But I think I'd be cautious to be playing this right now unless you're playing shorts. Looking at a potential rejection for a pullback, I wouldn't want to get long until we break out over 54.53 because we haven't had a candle close over that level since going back to 2021. So yeah, I would just be cautious there. The weekly kind of shows that as well. If we go back over here, look at the weekly time frame. Right, we can see that rotation coming back in. 3 green weeks in a row. We need to see that breakout over that level. But when that happens, I think UAL probably trades back to 60, potentially even making that move all the way back up into that 75 area if it really wants it. American, I think American was a similar story. We had a weekly, daily breakout. Yeah, here's the daily breakout on American, right? 1 day, 2 day, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days of rejection. Finally break out over that 1508 mark, and then we make our way all the way up to 1648. Now, this one is interesting because we are starting to consolidate here, potential consolidation pattern. And what I mean by that is you guys see how tight we're getting on American. Just something to note here. We are seeing a little bit more strength on American, but I do think that we are probably at a key level here. Yeah, somewhere in there. So just keep eye on that, but American does look like it's got a little bit more upside. I'd be cautious at UAL right now. Tesla, last one of the night, we'll talk about Tesla. The absolute monster Tesla. I called for this at 255 and we hit 263. But yeah, I told you guys I'm not into the prediction business. I also thought I was going to be able to grab Tesla long term at 90. I passed on it at 100 thinking it was going to go to 90 instead of dollar cost averaging in. If one thing is true, guys, that you'll learn in the markets, the price always goes up. Sean, actually, I think I told you this. In fact, when you were looking to sell Tesla not too long ago when it was around $200, I was like, yeah, I think we might see 255 here pretty soon on Tesla. So hopefully you held Sean on Tesla. Sean is a friend outside of the market, so I will not give investment advice unless someone calls me and says, what do you think about this chart? But he knows I don't give advice. So on Tesla, guys, what I see here on the daily, I'm sorry we got a lot of levels here. Let me clear these and just kind of show you guys the level that I'm really watching. It's really going to be this 265.38 level, right? So like this spot kind of right in here, 265.38, 265, somewhere in there. I think when we break through this level, Tesla probably makes this move back into this like 288 zone. If we put these levels back on, you can see why, right? Like we can see that we rejected 288 and we fell all the way down to 265 in 3 days. So naturally, my thought process, and you see this is a big spot, right? It held a support, held a support, held a support, tried to hold a support, and then gap down, right? So what I want to see is this going to become rejection at 265 because prior support, now resistance, or are we going to get back over 265, hold it as support, and then push back up to 288.79? But again, Tesla, massive daily chart here, right? Daily price consolidation leads to range expansion. At some point, we're going to have to see Tesla start to consolidate a little bit too. Just like we saw it in, at the end of last year, if we turn off these, it can't just keep coming down, right? It comes down, it consolidates, it comes down, it consolidates, it comes down, it consolidates, it comes down. And then we bottom. And then we push back up, we consolidate, we come down, we consolidate, consolidate. It just can't keep doing this. At some point, we're going to get a consolidation, and this might turn out to be a really pretty weekly. Look at this. If this turns out to be a weekly flag, if we get let's say we get a couple inside weeks, two to three inside weeks, I mean, we're talking Tesla back into the 350s in August if we get a couple inside weeks right here. So let's see what happens, but you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, just straight green candles. We could see a bull flag set up here on Tesla. So we are about 17 minutes over, guys. I know we started about 5 minutes late, so about 12 minutes net over. I want to make sure that I'm courteous of your guys' time as well that you put into this. That's what I'm going to be watching this week. We went over some charts that you guys liked. I appreciate the eyes on those to all you guys that participated. So you guys know, if you want to go back and look at the video, the links are going to be in the YouTube under the lives. It will also be in the YouTube premium links in the Discord, but I am looking at crypto miners this week, and I am looking at some software companies, TLO specifically, and notice how I didn't really mention too much about SPY or QQQ. I don't really care what SPY or QQQ does at this point, because I think there's so many actionable setups on individual names. I'll look at SPY and QQQ on a day-by-day basis, and if I see a scalp opportunity or a range expansion opportunity, I'll play it. But for right now, my bread and butter's been on the individual names, so I'm just going to continue to stick with these. And when we get that opportunity to take something, I will be there to take it. But I hope this helps you guys. I hope it helps you get ready for the week. If you guys have anything that you want to see, drop them in Wall Street for me. Tag me in it. Let me know what it is. And let's take a look at it together to see if it's an actionable setup. And sometimes you guys find these setups before I do, and we end up banking on them during the week. So let's be patient this week, but let's have a great week coming up. 2 more weeks left in June. So let's finish them out strong. But I'll see you guys tomorrow in Huddle. Have a good night, guys. Talk to you in the morning. Peace.